Alright guys, for today's video you're going to need the Association of Scatterplot video notes. You should have picked them up when you turned in your quiz today in class. And just as a reminder, this notes page in this video is not your homework. You will still have a video tomorrow night. Okay, so we're going to get started. These scatterplot notes is going to start our next unit that we're starting after functions. So that's going to be Unit 7, and I'm going to go ahead and write that here at the top to remind me. And Unit 7 is all about scatterplots. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and box in this keyword scatterplot. And a scatterplot is a graph that displays the relationship between discrete data. Okay, so go ahead and copy down that definition for a scatterplot. Again, it's a graph that displays the relationship between discrete data. And I'm going to go ahead and box in this keyword of discrete data. Okay, so a scatterplot is another graph that we're going to be looking at, but I want to point out it is not the same as like one of our y equals mx plus b graphs, okay? Because in a scatter plot, the points are kind of scattered. And in a y equals mx plus b, there's a constant rate between all the points because it has a slope. Okay, so like this would be 3 over 2, and then the next point would be up 3 over 2 because there's a constant rate in y equals mx plus b. Okay, so just to point out, a scatter plot is not y equals mx plus b. All the points on a scatter plot are kind of scattered. That's why we call it discrete. I'm going to highlight this. Discrete data. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at the first type of scatter plot that we're going to be looking at. And they name scatter plots kind of by the way that they look. Okay, so this first type of scatter plot is a linear correlation or linear association. Okay, so go ahead and copy down that first type of scatter plot. Again, that's a linear correlation, or sometimes they'll use linear association. But it basically means the same thing when describing the scatter plot. Okay, so all that basically means is a linear correlation or a linear association is when the data trend resembles a straight line. Okay, so go ahead and copy down that definition for a linear association. It's when the data trend resembles a straight line. I'm going to go ahead and box in the keyword straight line. So basically, it's just when all these dots here on these scatter plots kind of form a line. Okay, so on this first scatter plot here, I can actually draw two straight lines. Actually, I'm going to draw a better one here. Two straight lines that go with the trend of the data. So that's why they call this a linear association, because it forms a line. Also, kind of like what we did with y equals mx plus b, if I write my name on this scatter plot, I can see that my name goes down from left to right. That means this scatter plot has a negative linear association. So I'm going to go ahead and write that next to this scatter plot. Since it goes down from left to right, they would say it's negative linear. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this second scatter plot. Again, this is a linear association because I can draw straight lines that go with the trend of the data. And I can also write my name, since it's a straight line. I can write my name, and you can see from left to right, my name is going up. Therefore, this is a positive linear association scatter plot. Okay, so with linear associations, there are two types. You can have a positive linear association, or you can have a negative linear association. Either way, they're both linear because the data resembles a straight line. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at our second type of association. And you can see with these scatter plots, the data doesn't really fall in a line. You can see I can draw a line around them, but they don't go in a straight line. But the data does resemble a trend, it's just not a straight line. So they call this type of scatter plot a non-linear association or non-linear correlation. So go ahead and copy that down, the type of correlation we're looking at now. Again, it's non-linear because you can see the data follows a trend, but the trend does not make a straight line. Even on this second scatter plot, I can draw a line that kind of follows the trend of the data, but you can see this is not a straight line. I'm going to go ahead and write that here in the middle. Not straight line. So since it's not a straight line, they would call this non-linear because it's not straight. So I'm going to go ahead and write that definition for non-linear. For nonlinear association, the data has a trend that does not resemble a straight line. So the scatter plot follows a trend, but the trend does not resemble a straight line. Okay, so go ahead and copy down that definition for a nonlinear association scatter plot or a nonlinear correlation. And we're going to go ahead and look at the last type of scatter plot correlation. And you can see on these scatter plots, the dots or the points are very scattered throughout the coordinate plane. And you can see like over here, they're all over the place. And since these dots do not show a trend, we call this scatter plot a no association or correlation scatter plot, okay? So they call this no association because the data does not show a trend. And that means the data has no trend. So go ahead and copy down that definition for no association. The data has no trend. That's why we call it no association or no correlation. And an easier way to remember it is that in no correlation, the points are very scattered, okay? So they are very far apart. They do not have any kind of relationship like these graphs do that kind of flow in a trend, and these points that flow in a straight line. So you can see in the no association, there's no trend between the points on the scatter plot. Okay, so now that we've looked at the types of association, go ahead and turn your paper over. And on the back, you have 6 scatter plots, and you're going to determine the association of each scatter plot. And then you will select your answer on the Edpuzzle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at the first one. So based on this scatter plot, to determine the association as either positive linear, negative linear, no association, or non-linear, and select your answer. Okay, for scatter plot number 2, go ahead and select the type of association displayed by this scatter plot. Scatter plot number 3, go ahead and select your type of association based on the scatter plot. Scatter plot number 4, go ahead and select the type of association for this scatter plot. Scatter plot number 5, go ahead and select the type of association displayed by the scatter plot. And the last one, scatter plot number 6, go ahead and select the type of association for this scatter plot. Okay, and go ahead and glue these notes into your comp book, and we will see you tomorrow.